Make sure to subscribe to KMB Scary before watching any of the videos. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Story 1. The Wrong Door, Texas, 1974. It was Halloween night, 1974. The streets of Pasadena, Texas, were filled with kids in costumes, ghosts, skeletons, witches, laughing, running from house to house, their candy bags growing heavier with every doorbell. 8-year-old Timothy O'Brien was out trick-or-treating with his father, Ronald. To everyone else, they looked like a normal father and son enjoying Halloween. But later that night, that image would shatter completely. They came to a quiet street, darker than the rest. One particular house had no lights on. No jack-o'-lantern, no decorations, the universal sign that said, "No candy here," but Ronald said, "Let's try this one anyway." The kids knocked. No answer. After a moment, they gave up and started walking away. Then, out of nowhere, a man appeared in the doorway's shadows, face unseen, and handed out 5 long pixie sticks. Ronald pocketed them and gave one to each child. Hours later, back home, Timothy asked if he could have one piece of candy before bed. His father agreed. The boy opened the pixie sticks, poured the sugary powder into his mouth, and seconds later, began coughing, choking, and screaming that it tasted bitter. Within an hour, Timothy was dead. Police discovered the candy had been laced with cyanide, enough to kill multiple adults. The horrifying twist came days later when investigators realized the man behind it all was Ronald O'Brien himself, Timothy's own father. He had poisoned the candy to claim life insurance money on his son. The newspapers called him the Candyman. Since then, every Halloween, parents have checked their children's candy, terrified of poisoned treats. But few remember where that fear truly began, with The Wrong Door, on Halloween night, 1974. Story 2. The Photo That Shouldn't Exist, Ohio, 2002. In 2002, a 17-year-old girl named Laura Patterson and her friends were walking through a small Ohio town on Halloween night. Their plan was harmless: take photos of all the decorated houses and later make a scrapbook titled, "The Spirit of Halloween." They laughed, posed, and snapped pictures on Laura's old digital camera. Around 10 p.m., they reached the end of a quiet street, where an abandoned 2-story house stood. Its windows were boarded up. The garden was overgrown. Everyone in town knew it, no one lived there. Laura, being the brave one, said, "Let's get one last shot." She stepped closer, framed the photo, and clicked. The camera flashed, illuminating the cracked paint, broken shutters, and empty doorway. Or so she thought. When they got home later that night, Laura connected the camera to her laptop. The first few photos looked normal: smiling faces, pumpkins, glowing lights. But then they reached that photo. There, in the second-floor window of the abandoned house, stood a woman in a long white dress, with tangled black hair covering her face. Her hands pressed against the glass. Her eyes, what little you could see of them, were open wide, staring directly into the camera lens. The girls screamed. They swore no one had been there. A few days later, Laura showed the photo to the local police. The officer grew pale and said quietly, "That house has been empty for 5 years. A woman hanged herself in that upstairs room." When they investigated, they found no footprints, no signs of anyone having been there. But in the camera's data, the reflection in the glass didn't match the angle or light of the room, as if the woman was standing behind the photographer, not inside the house. Laura deleted the photo a week later. But her friends say that every Halloween since then, she's received an email, no address, no sender, with that same image attached. Mirror Story 3. The Mask in the Mirror. New Jersey, 2015. In 2015, a group of college students rented an old farmhouse outside Princeton, New Jersey, for their annual Halloween party. The place was old, creaky, but cheap, perfect for a night of costumes and drinks. One of them, Emily Hart, went upstairs to get ready. She found a small bathroom with an antique mirror, the kind that was slightly foggy and warped with age. She laughed at her reflection as she adjusted her makeup, then slipped on a cheap plastic mask, white, with a red smile painted across it. When she looked back at the mirror, her reflection was different. The mask in the glass was older, cracked, and smiling wider. Emily froze. She lifted her hand to touch her cheek. The reflection didn't move. Then, the bathroom light flickered. For a split second, she saw her reflection tilt its head, but she hadn't moved at all. Downstairs, her friends heard the faint sound of glass shattering. When they ran up, the bathroom door was locked. They broke it open, and the room was empty. The mask she'd been wearing lay split in half on the sink. The mirror? It was cracked from the inside. When police investigated, they found handprints on the inner surface of the mirror, as if someone had tried to push their way out. Emily was never found. The farmhouse still stands today, and every Halloween, locals say if you shine a flashlight on the upstairs bathroom window, you'll see a white mask staring back, smiling. Story 4. The Babysitter's Call, Illinois, 1983, Halloween night, 1983. A high school girl named Jenny was babysitting two kids while their parents went to a costume party. After putting the children to bed, she sat on the couch watching TV, a horror movie marathon, fitting for the night. Then the phone rang. A man's voice said softly, "Have you checked on the children?" She hung up, thinking it was a prank. But the calls kept coming. Same voice. Same question. Terrified, Jenny called the police. They told her to stay calm and keep him on the line next time, they would trace it. When the phone rang again, she whispered, "Why are you doing this?" The man chuckled. "Because, they're not asleep anymore." Seconds later, the police called back, yelling at her to get out of the house immediately. The call was coming from upstairs. When officers arrived, they found the two children unharmed, and the upstairs phone off the hook, still warm from the last call. But whoever had been speaking was gone. Flashlight Story 5. The Road Without Lights, Maine, 1999. In a small town in Maine, a man named Kevin Marsh was driving home late one Halloween night. The fog was thick, and the rural road was empty. No streetlights, no houses in sight. As he rounded a bend, he saw a young girl standing by the roadside, wearing a torn white dress. He stopped, rolled down his window, and asked if she was okay. She didn't answer. She just pointed down the road and whispered, "He's still there." Kevin got out of the car, but before he could take another step, she vanished into the fog. Shaken, he drove away fast. But a few miles later, when he looked into his rear-view mirror, she was sitting in the back seat, soaked, eyes wide, whispering, "You shouldn't have stopped." Kevin swerved off the road. The car was found the next morning, engine running, headlights on, but Kevin was gone. Only one thing was left on the passenger seat, a wet footprint.